Sorry, Carlos. Sorry I'm late. I know you've been taken all one time a year, but Chris Wood's looking at a Turkish contract instead of us for some reason. Is this the paperwork? Awesome. So, you told me it was going to be a bit of an average youth intake. How bad is it?
3.5 star. 3 decent players.
Only 3 decent players. I mean, that's okay. We've got the quantity now in our youth team. Hold on, an elite talent? We've never one of those before. That's good, Carlos. How much current ability does he have?
2 stars.
2 stars, okay. What about potential though? Because obviously, if he's an elite talent, he should be quite good in the future.
4 to 5 star.
4 to 5 star potential.
Yes, boss, very good.
So you're telling me he might be capable of playing for the All Whites?
I would like to think so.
Nice. Where does he play?
He is best just a defensive midfielder.
Okay, we've got some good young prospects there, but like, where would he rank in terms of first team, do you reckon?
The second best in both positions who's
Second behind a Tamer and Pascali.
indeed.
That's pretty good for a 15-year-old. When's his birthday?
Late April.
April. Oh, so more of a next season prospect then.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how many other decent prospects were there?
2.
2. I'll tell you what, Carlos, I'll take that. Quality over quantity all day long. That's made me happy. I'm going to go try sort out Chris and get the boys ready for this League Cup semi-final. Michael Wood is looking awful. He's had a haircut. He's gone from looking like Austin Theory to Corporate Kane, so I've got to try and not get freaked out by him. But great job, Carlos. Great job. Much better mood. Catch you later.
Party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 26 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both the All Whites and with AFC Auckland. Coming today, hopefully, might get a chance to complete our set here in Australia with our A-League team because we're going to take on Adelaide United first up in the semi-finals of the Australian League Cup. And off the back of that, we'll see when the final is. That might end up being the second game of today's episode. And as well as that, of course, we will start off shortly with our third youth intake of the save. So if you're looking forward to all that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video. And if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But first up today, we're going to have a look at our third youth intake of the save. It was one based on our youth intake preview, was only predicted to be a good one. We'll go over to AFC Auckland and now we can have a look at our youth intake for this season. I actually think it's one of our best ones so far. As you can see, the overall rating of it is the same as what it was in that preview, but we've got an absolute gem on our hands here, an elite talent for the first time, I think, in this save so far. If not, it's the first time it's happened since we've been proper good, at least in terms of the season preview. For us here at AFC Auckland, Michael Cornelius Beale looks like a player who might have enough potential to end up being an All Whites player one day, which is very nice indeed. He's a DM who can play as a deep-lying playmaker. To be fair, he can also do a pretty decent job as a defensive midfielder. I did mention in that intro that I recorded he would rank second best in both of those positions in the first team. I've just done a double check, and I tell a lie, he'd be a starter in both those positions. So he's certainly a very good player to come for our youth intake here this season at AFC Auckland, Michael Cornelius Beale, albeit his birthday is not till April, so you have to wait another 4 months till he can make his debut here for AFC Auckland. In fact, it's closer to 5 months because his birthday is in late April, but he's certainly a really good player that we can hopefully build that midfield around here at AFC Auckland, because based on star rating, it's probably one of the weakest areas in our team at the moment, but he does look like a very promising player. Certainly the star of this year's youth intake is Michael Cornelius Beale. Apart from that, honestly, there's not too much in behind those two top talents there in Omri Ingham, who is a striker. He looks quite decent with 1-star current ability and 4-star potential. And the other player that we got that we're probably going to sign is Max McDonald, yet another right winger coming for a youth intake here at AFC Auckland. A little bit more current ability at 1.5 stars, but only 3.5 stars potential, albeit I have seen that rise at times after signing players from youth intakes. The other 3 players we're probably going to sign because, as I said, in behind that, a bunch of players with 2.5 star potential or worse, and I don't think we need any of those, especially considering the amount we've already got in our under-19 team. So to be fair, little bit of a case this season of quality over quantity in our youth intake, but Michael Cornelius-Beale certainly makes that worthwhile. One of the best players we've had so far come for a youth intake here at AFC Auckland. But unfortunately, off the back of that youth intake, we did get some bad news here at AFC Auckland was renewing contracts going in to the transfer window that we are currently in. We did offer Chris Wood a new contract. It would have been a lower wage than he's currently on, but he still would have been a star player. Off the back of that, Mallorca and Adama Demirspor from Turkey came in for him, and as you can see, Chris Wood will be leaving us after just one season here at AFC Auckland. He is off to Turkey to be a regular starter for Adana Demirspor, to be fair, yet again, only a one-year contract, but disappointing that we can't hold on to one of our star players from this season in the A-League so far. He's been great for us here at AFC Auckland, 15 league games and 13 goals overall, 16 and 14. So certainly had a good strike rate compared to our previous strikers here at AFC Auckland. To be fair, that does probably mean that Ben Wayne next season can step in to that starting striker role. And also David Basilage, a player who's been on the bench for us recently with some injury concerns that we do have in the team. In fact, he's not here right now. We're going to have a look at our under-19s and find him. But he's certainly a player with enough potential that if we get him involved coming in for Chris Wood, that could pay off long-term as well. So I actually don't know if we need to bring in someone to replace Chris Wood with Ben Wayne already at the club and this guy sitting in our under-19s. But unfortunately, no Chris Wood off the back of this season, and of course, off the back of our World Cup campaign with the All Whites. To be fair, that does mean he might stick around a bit longer international-wise, but we'll see what does happen off the back of our first FIFA World Cup with the All Whites in this save. But moving forward to present time in game, we've gone forward a bit off the back of the two games we played in yesterday's episode, both in the A-League against Macarthur FC and the Melbourne Victory. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We have got through about a month's worth of football since then, coming back a bit earlier than I said, and that's because we're actually entering the final stages of the Australian League Cup. The reason for that is we did get past Adelaide City in the quarterfinals, despite the fact we put out quite a heavily rotated team, won that game 2-0, and our form ever since we went back to advance forwards instead of pressing forwards has continued to be very, very good. Off the back of that, we actually beat the Central Coast Mariners in the A-League finally 3-1 at Mount Smart. Two early goals here through Victor Ross and Chris Wood. Chris Wood also picked up a late one at the 89-minute mark. That was quite nice, because at the 78-minute mark, Jack Henry Sinclair, he scored against his former team not too long off the back of a red card to Ronaldo, which I did feel like might just stuff things up there, but thankfully we do hold on, actually kick away a little bit more and pick up a 3-1 win. Pretty sure that's our first win in the A-League over the Mariners, of course. Bet them early this season, but that was in the APL Cup. And also we've won one more game in the A-League, 3-1 away at the Brisbane Roar. This time it was Ben Wayne with 2 goals, playing as a right winger. And also Georgie Fernandez, he picked one up just before halftime. Good performance here away from home at Suncorp Stadium. Late own goal from Georgios Victoros, but thankfully that didn't prove costly at all. And in between that, we continue in the Australian Cup, one in the 5th round, albeit did go to extra time with a rotated team. Chris Wood thankfully scored nice and early in extra time, but before then, goals from Stefan Negro and Justin Keat were cancelled out by Nanan Matic and Charlie Worrell, but thankfully we did just do enough there in extra time to pick up a 3-2 win. A little bit disappointing. The game even went to extra time. As you can see, those stats heavily in our favour, but thankfully get the job done and are still on potentially for a quadruple in the 3rd season of this save as we try and defend both the Australian Cup and the A-League, and also hopefully might be able to pick up the Australian League Cup if we can win the first game of today's episode as we take on Adelaide United in the semi-finals before we then go back to Mount Smart and take them on. In the A-League, I did decide this might be a game there's a bit more running on, especially as so far in the save we've got nowhere near winning the Australian League Cup. Win this and it completes our set here as a manager in the Australian football pyramid, at least in terms of the top division. And in terms of the A-League table, that does mean that we are on top, 2 points clear of the Western Sydney Wanderers, keeping pace with us. And still, with 11 games left in the season, does look like a bit of a 2-horse race with 14 points between us and the Wellington Phoenix. But as I said today, going to focus hopefully on the Australian League Cup, where we're going to take on Adelaide United in the semi-finals. On the other side of the draw, it's the Central Coast Mariners taking on the Melbourne Victory. Both of those ties would be quite interesting, and Adelaide United so far are a team that we have a near perfect record against. Hopefully, despite the fact this one is away at Cooper Stadium, we can pick up a decent result. Those guys are having a decent season though in 6th. On the A-League table, solid mid-table team, but we should be better than them. 19 points between us and them on the league table, albeit a couple of injury concerns going into this game. Max Caputo still away on under-23 duty with Australia. He won't be back until late January if he's okay and doesn't need a rest off the back of that tournament. But also Gavin Tormeen, around the same time that the news came through that Chris Wood would be leaving us, he damaged his elbow and was out for a little while. To be fair, only out for 1 to 2 more days. Hopefully we'll be back when we do eventually come back for the second game of today's episode, whatever that is, a League Cup final or the A-League game where we do take on Melbourne City, but no Gavin Tormeen for this first game of today's episode. So what that means is at the moment, as mentioned earlier, Ben Wane's actually covering right wing for us in the team at the moment, and David Basilage has made his way up from the under-19s to be the backup striker in behind Chris Wood, seeing as he's leaving. Thought that might be a good idea, give him a taste of top-tier football, and hopefully he can step into that gap when we do go into the 4th season of this save. But thankfully, just that injury to Gavin Tormeen and the absence of Max Caputo, Justin Keat still in the squad as the backup to Stefan Malt, but pretty close to full strength for this Australian League Cup final. Michael Vood, he'll be in goal. A couple of other changes, just giving players a rest on a heavy workload or a yellow card, and we'll come back shortly and hopefully get a chance to lift a trophy in today's episode as we travel to Adelaide for the League Cup semi. And here are the team sheets for this League Cup semi-final. Here are Adelaide United actually coming to this one in some pretty decent form, going with a 5-2-1-2 formation. I'm seeing a little bit in the A-League this season. There we are. A couple of changes, as I said, Michael Vood in goal. Also Stefan Negro at right back. And as well as that, we have got Mitchell as that right-sided centre-back. Michael Vood looking a bit more corporate Kane these days than Austin Theory. He's at a haircut, have updated the face pack for some of our guys, and they look different. In particular, our goalkeeper, which is a little bit creepy, but it's taken until the 10-minute mark here for the first highlight of this game. A corner in our favour. Debungo, he goes far post, and Chris Wood gets his heel on the end of that one. Oh, we're going to miss him next season. His 16th of the year so far, and that is a lot of goals compared to what we were getting previously through both Bazookas and through Jello. But first highlight, off to a good start. A Chris Wood header puts us 1-0 in front. And 10 minutes off the back of that opening goal, yet again inside the final third here of Adelaide United, and Debungo is on the ball, plays that to Pascali, starts to cut inside, does his man quite nicely there, tight angle, tries to square it, it falls to Stefan Malk off the back of a save from Joe Gauci, whose contract expires at the end of the season. He's someone we could potentially bring in for homegrown nation reasons, but Stefan Malk there misses an absolute sitter, and we're still only 1-0 in front, albeit yet again a throw-in here inside the final third, very similar to that previous highlight. Nice chest there from a tamer to Stefan Malk. Now Ronaldo from a tight angle plays that back to Negro Pascali. Now Negro just knocking it about here outside of the box. Negro just takes his time here on the ball. Hopefully he can last a full game and not get injured, as he often does. But that's lovely from Vernadze. Pascali with a nice ball over the top, and Vernadze with a well-timed run getting behind the Adelaide United defence. That makes it 2-0, and hopefully that's a good cushion in this first half. We might be able to rest some players in the second if we can hold on to this lead and make our way through to a League Cup final. But that is a good finish past Joe Gauci just inside of that right-hand post to make it 2-0 Auckland. And in fact, right off the back of that goal to Fernandez, there is a highlight here from the restart, might be in favour of the home team. So maybe talking about going through the final a little bit too soon, but thankfully they play that ball long and Jordan Courtney-Perkins can tidy things up. Now Debungo makes his way forward. Fernandez, nice ball through there to Stefan Malk. Chris Wood gets on the end of that one, slots it away, but the assistant referee there, top of screen, puts his flag up, and no VAR, definitely offside, and it remains 2-0. Albeit short off the back of that disallowed goal. Now a free kick here in our favour. Chris Wood goes charging after that one, can't get it, but Taylor Tamer will tidy things up. Interesting that Ivan Debungo has picked up a yellow card since that previous highlight. Good chance here for Ronaldo to make it 3-0, but that one goes off target, tight angle, but a good chance, but so far well and truly on the front foot with a 2-0 lead. And I think that'll be all the highlights for this first half. Stefan Malk goes down to an orange injury late here in a red card as well, so that might be a good idea to take him off, as well as Ivan Debungo here at halftime. But that was a very dominant first half 2-0 in front, pretty much matching our XG so far. In this game, we'll make those subs here. As I said, left back, we'll bring on Lobo. For Debungo, and also we'll bring on, in this case, Nick Baker. For Stefan Malk, we've only got 7 sub spots here for the League Cup, albeit can use 5 of them, so it's a bit better than the Australian Cup, but it does mean no Justin Keat. So Nick Baker, he can either go in that camera, and hopefully we can see this out, make our way through to a final with this 2-0 lead. And 10 minutes into the second half, we get the first highlight here in Adelaide United. They are on the attack, no doubt. Would have got an absolute spray there at halftime, having done absolutely nothing in that first half. And Popovic is on the ball for them down this right-hand side, picks out their Taladra. It goes back to Pasovic. Now Waller, he gets in behind, good chance. He was onside too, thankfully misses the target, and it's still 2-0 Auckland. And going on a further 10 minutes, it's now a free kick down the other end for us. Here we try and find Stefan Negro inside the box. It's a big looping header, but it goes well over the bar and over the efforts of Joe Gauci. Adelaide United still in this game, yet to have a shot on target. They've got a few shots off now, but not very threatening. Hopefully that means we're going to hold on here to our 2-0 lead. As Teo Atema, he's gone down to Red Heart. Pascali tries to fizz that one back of net, but unfortunately pretty much straight into the path of Joe Gauci. And off the back of that highlight, we'll take off Teo Atema on that Red Heart. Just seeing here what we can do in terms of our bench options. Nick Baker was the only DM that we did have on the bench. So because of that, what we might do here is bring on to Hotman de Villiers, Nick Baker. He can go back to a DM, and it means Georgie Fernandez can play as a cam. And also while we're here, we might give a rest to Courtney Perkins, seeing as he is a bit of a yellow card magnet. Victoros can come on for him. Still 2-0 up with just under 20 minutes left. And very short off the back of that previous lot of substitutions, now Fernandez is down to a red heart after he just switched him to a central attacking midfielder. So yet again, bit of a shuffle up needed. I think what we're going to have to do here is bring on Callan Elliott, which is not ideal because he is currently sitting on a yellow card. But Stefan Negro can play DM. So because of that, we can move Pascali forward to the cam role. So a bit of a shuffle up here with our final substitution. But thankfully, still got that 2-goal buffer. And we're inside the last 5 minutes of this one. Unfortunately, the second half hasn't been up to too much. One decent chance for both teams that we did see through a highlight, but hasn't been up to too much. Thankfully, been able to give some of our bench players some time in this League Cup semi-final off the back of first half goals to Chris Wood as well as Fernandez. And it does mean we go fairly safely through there to the League Cup final with a 2-0 win over Adelaide United. We'll just go forward off the back of this and see who we might be playing in that League Cup final, and also exactly when that's going to be, to see if we can play it in the second game of today's episode. And we are in the inbox off the back of that first game of today's episode. Nice 2-0 win there over Adelaide United. Now an injury check here on Stefan Malk, who we did take off at half-time. It was an orange injury, thankfully not too bad. He should also be back actually, possibly in time for the next game against Adelaide United in the A-League. We get £204,000 for that. Actually, League Cup getting quite a bit of money in this competition compared to the Australian Cup, so don't actually mind if we go deeper in this than the other competition, albeit we'd like to pick up the quadruple with how strong a squad we do have here at AFC Auckland. Pascali was man of the match with that assist for the Fernandez goal. Just going to see here if we can check who won the other semi-final. It was Melbourne Victory after extra time. At the moment, not listed in our schedule. It kind of is, but no opposition yet. But looks like that game's right off the back of the one against Melbourne City that we were going to come back for. So because of that, just go 4-1 and see if it does pop up in our schedule. Indeed it does. It's at Amy Parks, an away final for us in a cup. We've been pretty lucky so far. Most finals have been at Mount Smart. This one will be away from home. And indeed, that's on the 28th of January, right off the back of that game against Melbourne City. So a bit of a change of plans here. We'll come back and hopefully win the Australian League Cup as we take on the Melbourne Victory. And popping in quickly before we do play that League Cup final against the Melbourne Victory, as we did play 3 games in between now and then. Over the space of 2 weeks, first up we backed up that 2-0 win over Adelaide United in that League Cup semi-final with a 5-2 at Mount Smart. In the A-League, Ronaldo picked up a double in this game, but unfortunately was forced from the field at the 60-minute mark. We'll touch on that off the back of the other results that we've picked up since then, but unfortunately not a good injury. But thankfully, Chris Wood also scored, as did Fernandez and Gavin Tormine off of the bench. They did actually take a lead halfway through the first half, headed Adelaide through quick fire penalties to Musa Toure, but thankfully didn't get screwed too much. We fought back and picked up a 5-2 win after being 3-2 in front at half-time. So back-to-back wins there over Adelaide United. Off the back of that, then took part in the 6th round of the Australian Cup, which of course we are trying to defend, and thankfully with a slightly rotated team, did pick up a 2-1 win here. Goals to Sebastian Pascali and to young David Busselage, his first goal as a first teamer here at AFC Auckland. They grabbed one late to make things interesting in injury time through Mate Barisic, but we do pick up there a 2-1 win and go through to the next round of the Australian Cup. That could be quite interesting because that is against the Western Sydney Wanderers, the team hot on our heels in pursuit of the A-League. That could be quite instrumental in our chances of a quadruple this season, of course, as well as this upcoming Australian League Cup final, which hopefully we got a bit of a wake-up call prior to, because a 2-2 draw away at Melbourne City, and we played very, very averagely in this game. 2 soft goals that we conceded through mistakes at the back, and that's what cost us. Got off to a good start here with an early goal to Stefan Malk, but unfortunately our first error on the 20-minute mark, and Jamie McLaren, he made the most of it. Then one in the second half, and a goal there to Justin Obwavrodu, I believe is how you might say that one. But shortly off the back of that, Ben Wayne, he grabbed an equaliser. That's how it finished in a game that we probably should have won based on stats, but especially considering that we did gift them those 2 goals at Amy Park. So drop points there in the A-League, but thankfully we are now actually 3 points clear of the Western Sydney Wanderers, because in amongst that most recent patch, they lost to the Brisbane Roar the day before we dropped points at Melbourne Victory. So it would have been really nice to win there. Would have actually given us a 5-point gap on top of the league, but unfortunately just 3 points, but with 9 games left in the season, hopefully that will still be enough. That game when we take on the Western Sydney Wanderers away in the A-League, I dare say will be absolutely crucial in who picks up the A-League title this season, albeit our goal differential currently certainly is a lot stronger. So maybe can still pick up the title even if we don't win that game over in Parramatta. So hopefully that draw against Melbourne City might just rev up the boys here going into our next game against the Melbourne Victory. Bit of a change. This game's now being played at Mount Smart, which definitely wasn't what came up before when we went forward in the inbox. I did not buy the hosting rights. Not too sure what's gone on there, but this one is at Mount Smart Stadium yet again, so actually a big advantage for us here in this League Cup final. Hopefully can pick this trophy up for the first time in the save. Of course, the previous 2 seasons, we've actually got knocked out in this competition. The first game that we played this time, going a lot deeper and making a lot more money, which is nice. As I said earlier, actually looks like there's more money in this competition than the Australian Cup, which is a little bit interesting. Unfortunately, though, as you saw before, Ronaldo, he did get injured in that second game against Adelaide United. Thankfully, Glenn Tormine, he is back, but Ronaldo, he pulled a hamstring. He's out for 9 more days to 4 weeks, so definitely not available for this League Cup final. So that does mean that Glenn Tormine is a right-wing option, as is still the Wayne train. So not too much change there. Just means that these days it's Ronaldo injured instead of Tormine. And also Max Caputo, as feared, has actually gone on a holiday off the back of his duty with the Australian under-23s, which is way too tired off the back of that. So we'll be missing for quite a bit longer here at AFC Auckland. Should be back in time, though, for our run home to hopefully both the Australian Cup and the A-League title. It does mean Ben Wayne will start at right wing. Tormine still coming back from injury, only recommended for 45 minutes. So hopefully the Wayne train can do a decent job for us out there at right wing. Also rotation defensive midfielders, because both Pascali and Atema are very injury prone, but apart from that, we're at full strength, and also Michael Vuden goal with this being a cup game. But apart from those changes, we're pretty close to full strength for this one, and hopefully can bring home the League Cup for the first time in front of the Mount Smart faithful as we take on the Victory. And here are the team sheets for this League Cup final. You saw ours before our changes, and Michael Vood still in goal with this being a cup game. Palmer and Baker in the DMs, and Stefan Malk and Ben Wayne in the attacking midfield area. There are the Melbourne Victory. They'll be in the pinky white uniform. Because of that, we're going to go with our black uniform. Just want to make sure that there's enough difference in between these 2 kits, but hopefully we can pick up this League Cup for the first time in the save. And bang on halfway through the first half, it's been a very quiet game so far. No shots from either team, but eventually we do get a highlight. Might be in our favour. It does look like Mount Smart here is well packed out for this one. Might be interesting to see how many fans come to this one off the back of hopefully picking up a result here, because it does look like a much fuller crowd than we usually get for our A-League game. Still not quite sure how we ended up with the hosting rights for this one when it said Amy Park early, but we are on the attack here. Fortunately, that ball does fall to Cullen Elliott. Puts that one far post for Jorge Fernandez, who heads it home for his 8th goal of the season. And that's a good start. It's taken a little while, but with the first highlight, we'll take a 1-0 lead. Palmer here was on the ball. Good slide tackle coming in from Balami, their striker, but rather fortunately falls to Cullen Elliott, and Fernandez can head that one home. I'll stop lingering on Evan Bango off the back of us taking a 1-0 lead. And just about to make our way into the last 5 minutes of this first half. So far, just that one highlight, but now a throw-in inside of the final third. Stefan Malk tries to make his way inside the box. Again, a tackle. It fell, fortunately, to Cullen Elliott. He'll pick up yet another assist, and the Wayne Train will pick up a goal on camera, I think for the first time since the Wayne Train series here on the channel. Choo-choo and all that, but that is a big goal just before halftime to give us a buffer 2-0 lead. Stefan Malk tackle there from Broxham. Fell to Elliott yet again, really fortunately, in a lot of space. He'll pick up a second assist. The Wayne Train tucks it home, and we're 2-0 in front. And that was it for the first half. Pretty quiet in terms of highlights, but we did get 2 of them, and they both resulted in goals to Cullen Elliott assists, which were rather fortunate, but goals to Fernandez and to the Wayne Train, and we are 2-0 in front. Melbourne Victory have been up to very little, to be fair, so have we, but thankfully did pick up those 2 goals. Everyone out there doing pretty well rating-wise, no changes needed, and hopefully we can lock this up and pick up the League Cup for the first time with this 2-0 lead. And it hasn't taken long at all here for the first highlight of the second half. Yet again, a throw-in inside of the final third. DeBungo back to Baker, puts that one into the mixer rather fortunately, goes all the way through the Wayne Train. Back past there to Palmer. Thankfully, Baker can tidy that one up after he gets cleared, but apparently it was legal. Baker will now find DeBungo. Fernandez back out to DeBungo, trying to get something going here. Down that left-hand side, pick out Chris Wood at the far post. That's now his 18th for the season, which I'm pretty sure is going to get close to a season record. I'm not too sure who has that. Might actually be Gwevin Tormin in the first season of this save, but Chris Wood makes it 3-0, and hopefully that's now a big enough buffer to make sure the Victory won't get one, and we'll pick up the League Cup. Great start to the second half. Big Wood makes it 3-0. And on the hour mark, still that 3-0 lead. 3 highlights so far and 3 goals. We're going to take off some players here on yellow card issues and red hearts. Fernandez just picked one up, playing well, but Hotman de Villiers can come on for him. Also take off Courtney Perkins, same reasons as that first game. Adam Mitchell can come on for him. If you're wondering, he's a lot more natural on the right-hand side, so that's why we switch him with Vic Dross. And also Cullen Elliott, yellow card issues, playing very well with those 2 assists from the first half, but Negro can come on for him. 3 subs with that 3-0 lead. And right off the back of those subs, now we're down the other end here for a corner for the first time. Really, the Melbourne Victory might be on the attack in this game. They take it short. It goes back to Adams, tries to float that one far post, looking for Contis. Now a 4-3. He will find the Villa Poulet. He's scored against us before, but that shot's blocked. It might be a chance for us here to hit on the counter-attack. Nice touch there from Hotman de Villiers to get him behind the defence here. A little bit of a 2-on-1 situation. Does quite well. Squeeze that one for Stefan Malk. That's a very good counter-attacking goal set up by young Medi de Hotman de Villiers. A very promising left-winger come striker here at AFC Auckland. Same current ability and potential as the player that did come through our youth intake. That's great work from him to set that one up for Stefan Malk, and that should be game, set, and match as we're 4-0 in front. Albeit only a few minutes later, back down the other end here for a corner to the Melbourne Victory. We'll see if they do better this time. They don't. Paul Pastor and Palmer can tidy that one up, and yet again, Hotman de Villiers here with a chance to do something on the counter-attack. This time, though, he is being marked a bit tighter and plays that one back to Victor Ross. Now Baker goes across to Adam Mitchell. Some fresh legs off of the bench, albeit not the quickest, seeing as he is these days. Nearly 30, but nice ball through there for Stefan Malk. Put that away for a quick fire double. Nathan Palmer with the assist. Those 2 defensive midfielders, usually a rotation. One's quite a young pairing that, but they are doing a good job. We'll see how they are feeling once our youth intake player is able to play in late April. But Stefan Malk there with a quick fire double, and that's now surely game over. The Victory here being humiliated at Mount Smart as we take a 5-0 lead in the final. And just about to make our way into the last 20 minutes of this game, you'd imagine it's all wrapped up. It's going to make some changes here as Ben Wayne actually playing quite well at right wing. We'll bring on Gwevin Tormin for him, so hopefully he can get his fitness up. And also Evan Bango, I'm pretty sure sitting on a yellow card at the moment. So because of that, we might bring on here Lucas Nunez. And what we might be able to do here is put Stefan Negro to left back and Nathan Palmer to right back for the late stages of this game. You can't imagine we'll concede 6 goals in 20 minutes. Hopefully not anyway, as we're 5-0 in front. Albeit going up now just shy of the 80-minute mark, and the Victory here yet again look to do something on the attack. So far these highlights have not been good for them. They have resulted in goals down the other end, but this time they play things smart and go back to Izzo. Now Fore plays it forward to Valadon, I believe that is, back to a Fore down the left-hand side here for the Victory. Not having a good day at Mount Smart. They'll be quietly filthy that this one all of a sudden did get played over in New Zealand instead of at Amy Park, but the Victory there rather fortunately do keep hold of the ball, albeit that's happened quite a few times to us, especially in that first half. Cullen Elliott rather fortunate to pick up a couple of assists, but now the Victory here take their time on the ball through to Silva. Contis makes his way a bit more outright, starts to go forward ever so slowly, and now plays the ball forward there to Villapule, tight angle. He tries to square it, and it eventually finds its way through to Eli Adams. Not too sure what's gone on there. A little bit messy at the back potentially with that shuffle up that we did make. We'll just see who that was who put in a weird tackle late on to try and stop that one. Not too sure who it might be. Nathan Palmer. Indeed it is. Don't think he's much of a defender, unfortunately. Definitely a lot better in defensive midfield, but the Victory, they do grab a consolation goal. They make it 5-1, but we'll see if there's any more highlights in this game. Does feel like we're going to be lifting the League Cup. I say feel like. We are going to be lifting the League Cup with only 3 minutes of added time. And at Mount Smart Stadium, a rare sight, a team lifting a trophy. It's AFC Auckland, and we pick up for the first time the Australian League Cup to complete the set here at AFC Auckland. I suppose it kind of counts, seeing as we've won all the trophies inside the space of a season. But hopefully we can complete it in a proper season by finishing this one off with both the A-League and the Australian Cup. But that was a convincing win in the final over Melbourne Victory, 5-1, to lift the Australian League Cup. And back in the inbox, I'll take that 5-1 win over the Melbourne Victory in the Australian League Cup final. Very convincing, and yet again get a nice decent chunk of money for that win. So actually quite happy to have gone quite deep this season in the Australian League Cup. Maybe need to prioritise that competition a little bit more, especially as the finances here still not that great. It certainly helped those wins that we've picked up lately, but the club not in very good condition financially, despite the fact I'm keeping to all the rules in terms of the wage budget and the transfer budget. But we are spending quite a bit of money to get that success. We'll see if at some point we do need to balance the books out here at AFC Auckland, but we already pick up a double for this season. We'll see if we can make it a quadruple, still alive in the Australian Cup and also the A-League as we look to win those competitions for a second season in a row. But I think that will do it for today's episode. For the first time in the save, we do pick up the Australian League Cup, the last trophy that we did need to win for our set here in Australian domestic football. If you enjoyed today's episode focused on the League Cup, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Now, in terms of when we'll come back for the other episodes this week, it will potentially depend quite a bit on that next round we have in the Australian Cup against the Western Sydney Wanderers, because that, I would say, will be the toughest test remaining in that competition. If we get past them, should be a decent chance to play and get another Australian Cup final, albeit it is a cup competition, so you never know, but that does look like quite a tough tie in that comp. The rest of our games in February and the remaining one in January do look pretty winnable. Sydney are struggling, as are those other teams that we do take on. The Wellington Phoenix in March are still going really well. We might come back for that one, see if they've got some good players that have come through their most recent youth intake, like in previous seasons. There's no other A-League games in and around that, so what we might do is pair that one up with an all-whites game, because during that window, we take on the team that is the only one to have taken a result off us in the last 21 games that we have played, and that is the War Elephants of Thailand. This one we are going to be playing at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin, so maybe can do a bus trip from the deep south before we take on the War Elephants of Thailand, try and get some revenge on those guys. They are actually ranked below El Salvador, but the last time we played El Salvador, we beat them. So I think Thailand might be the bigger game for us. Hopefully, can pick up a win in that one, and also against the Phoenix in the New Zealand derby. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.